the founder of the $20 kindness challenge, next on the Feel Good Frequency.
She's the friend who'll show up with coffee or wine when you need it most, but probably wine. Good vibes are on the way. Welcome to Erin O'Malley's Feel Good Frequency.
So today I have a very special woman here. Her name is Kristina Ulmer. Welcome.
Oh, thank you for having me on the show.
Absolutely. It is an honor to have you here. And you started something that has really gone viral. And for a while, I had heard about it and I thought, oh, I'd love to be able to actually speak with her. So I'm so glad that you responded and you're here. The $20 kindness challenge. Now, this all started from an awful tragedy. You lost your sister, Katie. And I just want to know about Katie. Can you tell me what she was like?
She was complicated, but she really at her core, she all she really wanted to do was help people. Like she from the time we were little kids, she was really it really bothered her when she saw like inequity or inequality or injustice in the world. Like it really like just even as like small children. Like I remember us being kids and she's like, I'm gonna join the Peace Corps one day. I'm like, how do you even know what the Peace Corps is? And she like anytime we heard of a story of someone going through something, it really like very, very empathetic where she would get really upset about things. Like she would cry about stories she read or like people we know were going through things. And she very much was in support of saving every animal on the planet. She like eventually became a vegan and just wouldn't, she just didn't want to harm anybody or anything. And in her 20s, she really struggled with trying to find like what she wanted to do with her life because I think she in her core like thought like I want to do something that helps people. For a while she thought she would do something with food insecurity and she worked at our local food bank volunteering there and then she I don't know, she's really struggling to find what she wanted to do. And right before she passed away, she decided she wanted to become a paramedic. So she went to school to become an EMT. She got her certification in that. And then she was looking for a job on an ambulance when she unfortunately died in a car accident. And her ultimate goal was to then become a paramedic. And she really, really, she did work on an ambulance for a little bit before she passed away. She really loved it. She thought it was really important to be there for people at their most vulnerable moments. And so, yeah, she just a very compassionate person to the point where like it really, I think just she just could not understand how we can live in a world where people can have so much and then there's others that have nothing. Like she just didn't, in her mind from the time she was born, just did not understand that.
Wow. I wish she was still here because we need many people like her.
Yes, totally agree with that. Yes, we are lacking, I think, in that. So
Well,
I wish
I'm
she was here.
so sorry for your loss because that is just the most profound loss. And what you have done with that loss is just, she'd be so proud of you. I mean, just the way
Thanks.
you explained her, I feel like she is smiling wherever she is because
Yep.
you have made a legacy out of her. And
Thank
what
you.
you've created is it's just stunning. It's so incredible. So this happened unfortunately in 2014 and
Yep.
4 years you took some time to, I guess, figure out exactly how you were going to keep her memory alive. Can you tell me a little about that?
Sure. Yeah. So yeah, she died in October of 2014. And my parents and I went to the accident scene. We didn't know that she had passed away when we got until we got there. Um, and so we just thought, she was injured. They were going to take her to a hospital, and then we got there, and the police officer told us, unfortunately, she had
Ugh.
passed away. And so I asked there were 3 police officers on the scene, and I asked the 3 of them if they could go into her car and get our belongings because I just had this feeling the second they took that car away, we were never gonna see it. I don't know why. I just had this feeling, and it is what happened. They took the car away, we never saw it again.
Oh my gosh.
But 2 of the police officers said they couldn't do it because the conditions of the car, it was a lot of glass. My sister's car had flipped, so it was really kind of dangerous. But there was one police officer who I guess saw the look in my face, and she said she would do that. So she climbed into the car. It was pretty dangerous. And she gathered my sister's things, her purse, her phone, all that stuff. And then yeah, so I went home, and I was sitting with my husband and we were going through her belongings and I was just filling him in on what happened, and I just like it was very surreal because I thought like, how is she not? I just felt like she was still here. Like I was like, well, she's
Yeah.
just like I thought I want I want to call Kate and tell her what happened. Like that's what I had that feeling. And so anyway, I was going through her things, got to her wallet, and my sister waitressed as a like a side job
Mhm.
on the weekends, and it was a job that actually I used to work with her. I worked at this local family-owned restaurant when I was first a teacher, and then my sister wanted to work there, so I got her the job there. And then
Oh.
I left when I became a full-time teacher, and she stayed on. So she had worked there a very long time, maybe almost a decade. And I knew she had waitressed that morning because it was a Sunday morning. And she had a lot of customers who just really loved her and would just specifically come in and ask for her, and a lot of regulars. And so she had this stack of cash that was her tips. And I thought, okay, I got to do something with this. And at first I thought maybe I would buy something for my kids because they just lost their aunt.
Mhm.
Um, but like we're really blessed. Like I don't need anything. So then I thought maybe I'd donate it to a charity that I know Kate would have loved. And that just didn't, I don't, none of it felt right. And so there's this cabinet in my living room, and I stuck the purse and the wallet and all of it in this drawer. And then every once in a while, I would take it out and I would hold her things and like go through her stuff again, and then look at the money and I'd be like, "Oh, I should do." And it wasn't a lot of money, like it was a
Mhm.
couple $100s, but I thought I got to do something. But none of it felt right. And then so 4 years went by, and then I'm a high school English teacher, and I teach mostly ninth grade English. And I had this particular class that I was working with, and we were reading a book called Fahrenheit 451. And in the book, it's a dystopian novel, so it takes place in the future. It was written over 70 years ago, but in the future of this book, everyone's addicted to their screens. They don't care about each other. Um, they are very anxious and depressed, even though they don't admit it. They are accidentally overdosing. They like walk around with earbuds in their ears all day long.
Wow,
Um,
70 years ago, you say?
I
That was,
know.
somebody predicting the future.
Yes. In fact, my current students, we just finished the book, and they're like, when did he write this? I'm like,
Yeah.
"Yep, 1950." And they're
Wow.
like, "But how did he know?" I'm like, "I don't know." Like Ray Bradbury TV had just come out,
Mhm.
and he just foresaw that it was going to get better and bigger, and that people were going to be more engrossed in it, and they wouldn't be able to keep their eyes away from it. And then what would happen to human connection when we're just engrossed in screens? And so yeah, I've had a lot of discussions with my students about our world is looking kind of similar, and
Right.
how do we prevent this world where people don't care about each other and they're disconnected, and they don't even care if someone dies, like they just move on without really a thought. And then this idea came in my head of, oh, I could do something with the money. And so I took the cash and I went to the bank and I exchanged it for $20 bills. And then I came in to that one class the day before winter break in 2018, and gave them each $20. And I told them about my sister. And I told them I wanted them to do an act of kindness with the money or help someone with it, in hopes that they would be able to make the connection to, we don't want our world to become like the world of the book, even though it's looking kind of like it is going that
Yeah.
way. And also they're teenagers, right? They all have phones. So like it's, the stereotype of teenagers today is their faces are on screens. But I mean, I tell my students, I think that's all of us. I don't think that's just teenagers. I think we all walk around.
Oh, it's everybody. It's
Hmm.
I mean, just drive by even a bus stop, just a
Yep.
regular bus, every single adult is looking down.
Yep, exactly. So anyway, that first group of students, they used my sister's money and they did all the acts of kindness. I thought it was going to be a one and done type of thing. And I did ask them to record a little video sharing what they did so that I put it together and we could all watch what
Oh.
each other did. And we did that. And then we have semesters in my school. So that fall semester ended in January. And then I got a new set of students. Spring semester came, and in February, I got an email from someone saying they heard about what my students had done and they wanted to write a check for my next set of students.
Oh my
And
gosh.
oh yeah, I was like, what? So they're like, yeah, whatever, however much you need, I'll write a check. So I was able to do it again. And then at that point is when it kind of went viral a little bit locally because we had our librarian here heard about it. one of the students that I had, she took the $20 and she went to the library and she asked if she could pay off the library fines for any seniors because the seniors, if they had a library fine, they couldn't walk in graduation. She thought that was ridiculous. So
Yeah.
she's like, pay off their fines. And the librarian was like, who, why are you doing that? And she explained what was happening. So the librarian shared about it, went a little bit viral locally, and then we had like the local news in here talking about it and interviewing my students. And then people started donating. So then we would get like envelopes with $20 bills in it, and that was pretty cool. And then so I've had enough donations over the years that I've been able to do it every semester, so twice a year since the fall of 2018.
How many students did you have in the first semester?
Only 20. So at the time, I was only teaching one class because I was a tech coach for the school too. So I just happened to have just one class of students. So, and there was 20 of them, and I was like, okay, it was right around the same amount that my sister had in her wallet. So kind of worked out perfectly like that. And then so now I have a full load. That ended pretty quickly after that. So now I offer it to my students voluntarily. So they sign up, but it's usually most of my kids sign up. So every semester I'll teach maybe around 60 students and usually around like 50-ish sign up. So there's only like a couple kids that don't sign up. So yeah, so it's most of my students sign up. And so yeah, it's about 100 kids a year participate, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And yeah, and this past year, as you said, like it went even more viral because we had another local story, and then somehow like Good Morning America picked up the footage, and then it was all over the place. And then we really started getting donations, and so then I got to a point where I last spring I had so many donations. I was like, what's going to happen if I have so much money that I can't possibly use it myself? And so we came with this idea of I could then potentially help other teachers. And so I started because I also had a lot of teachers reaching out saying they wanted to do it with their students, not just teachers, community members saying, I'd like to do this with my youth group, or, we have scouts and I want to do it with my scout troop. And do you have any resources, or how did you get the money? And I would explain, like, well, I have donations. So, and we brainstormed ways to maybe try to find donations in their community. There was a teacher last year in Delaware. She was the first teacher I knew that actually did it. She found a local business owner. She just went on like Facebook and posted her in her local town's group, like, I want to do this with my students, and does anybody want to donate? And then a local business owner said, oh, I'll cover your class.
Oh,
And so I thought, oh, that's pretty cool. So I then started developing some resources and then built a website and started this foundation in hopes to provide resources to other teachers, community members who want to do this with children. And then also now we're at the point where we're providing grants to other teachers so that they are given the money. So we just went last month to a teacher in New Jersey and gave money to her class. She's a business teacher, and we provided a grant to her class. And then my students came and explained, how they participated and what they did and what it meant for them and what they learned from it. And then now those students are wrapping up their kindness challenge right now. So it's been pretty cool. Yeah, like to see how it's grown and people contacting me from all over, not just the country, all over the world saying, "Oh, I'm doing this with my students." I'm like, "It's amazing." I keep telling my students every day, I'm like, "I need you to know the impact that you're having." Like
yeah.
they see what you do and then they want to, do something similar or inspired. I told one of my students today, I had a student last year, she came to me and she said, I have $20, but I want to figure out a way to make more. And I said, well, you can do that. Like, no pressure though.
Mhm.
She said, no, I think I can do it. So she got together with another student and they had $40 between the two of them. And then they bought stuff to make cookies. They baked the cookies and then they sold it at a local barber shop. And their goal was, she set this goal. There was a shelter that there was a dog that was up for adoption and it was going to cost $300 to adopt the dog. She and her friend set a goal. I think we could sell enough cookies, we could make 150. We'll cover half the adoption fee. Well, they ended up making over $300. So they paid for the full adoption fee for this family to adopt this dog. And then they used the extra money to buy treats and toys and stuff for the dog. And so I shared that when we provided the grant last month to these students. I shared that story and a group of students heard that and they're like, we could do something similar. We could do it even more. So I think it's a pretty large group of students got together and they decided that they were going to do something similar, but they found an organization that makes custom vests for canine like police dogs.
Oh, yeah.
Right, and the cost is pretty high. It's like 14 or $1,500 to make
Yes.
one of those vests. So they were asking my student, "Do you think we could do it?" And I said, "Well, look, this is what my student did. She set a goal that wasn't the full amount. Like maybe you want to do that. Figure out like how much you think you could raise with the $20 to contribute." Nope, they've raised the money. They've
Oh
done it.
my
Yeah.
gosh!
I think they're way past the goal. I think they're now gonna they got the vest, and then there's like some other type of medical kit or something for the dog that they're gonna pay for. Yeah. So I told my
Oh,
student, I just today I called my former student and I said, "I need to tell you that your act of kindness last year, I shared about it, and you inspired this other group of students to do something similar." And she was like, "What?" I said, "Yeah, I need you to know that what you did inspired others to do something similar and even go further with it." And she's like, "That's amazing. I didn't know that what I was doing was like that inspirational." I said, I wanted you to know."
I'm so glad you did that and reached out to her because she's never gonna forget this.
Nope. I don't think so either. She'll now know that the impact that she had. Now that I've been doing this for so long, you see a lot of students who the act of kindness they choose, it's because they were inspired by a former student. I had a student this year who he bought $20 worth of flowers and then he walked around one of our local towns and he gave it out to people in local businesses. Like he'd walk into a convenience store and he gave it to a worker. And he said the reason why he did that is there were former students that he saw in one of our videos who did something similar and he thought, you know what, like he's a pretty shy kid and he's like, I want to do something out of my comfort zone. And he saw this group of students who did it. He said, I think I could do it. And he asked me, he's like, it's just me, but can my friends come with me? I said, sure. And so he and his friends, he had just the $20 and he bought his best friends and they walked around town. They gave out the flowers and he said just, made people's day. And so he was inspired by the previous set of students. And I said, that's really cool that you're, he's like, well, I wanted to do something I knew that would push me to do something I wasn't used to doing. He's like, it is kind of awkward to talk to strangers and just walk up to them and give flowers. But he's like, but I thought I saw those kids do it and I thought if they could do it, I could do it. So it's really cool seeing that, kids inspiring each other. It's really been neat to see.
It must be, and it's so necessary at this time in
Mhm.
the world. I cannot get enough of how one idea has turned into just an entire movement. This is so big.
Yeah, I never thought it would grow into this. Like I really thought I'll just honor my sister, I'll use her money for good. I'll put some good into the world because she's not here anymore to do it herself. And I thought that would be it. And then I do think though, like you mentioned the beginning of like her being proud of me. I also think that she's orchestrating all of this.
Oh,
Like
I do too.
I've had so many moments and I'm like, oh, like how that's such a weird connection, or it's just strange to me. Like there's so many stories like that. I'm like, oh, okay, this is Kate. Katie's out there and she's like, okay, I'm gonna pull some strings. This is amazing. I don't know. Like even so recently, so I'll tell you this story. So I told you about the police officer who went into the car. So back in this past February, I was out to dinner with my family. It came up through conversation that my mom brought up that that police officer had a couple days after my sister died had found her on Facebook and messaged my mom to
Oh, wow.
say I was the responding officer at your daughter's accident and I just wanted to reach out to tell you how sorry I am. If you need someone to talk to, here's my phone number. And my mom never saw it. It went into like a spam folder and she
Oh.
only recently discovered it, and this came up in conversation this past February. And I said, wait, what, the is that the police officer that went into Kate's car? And she's like, yeah, I think that's the, because we had three police officers there. And I said, I think that's the same officer. So I said, give me her phone number, we're gonna like give me that message. And she's like, well, it was 11 years ago, she probably doesn't even remember that she sent that message, it's been so long, I just didn't see it until now. And I said, no, we're gonna call this police officer. So I texted the police officer and I said, you don't probably remember this. 11 years ago, you were the responding officer for my sister's accident. A couple of days after the accident, you messaged my mom. She never saw the message. It went to her spam folder. And she'd only recently even discovered that that folder existed. She didn't know that. So she's so sorry she didn't respond, but she didn't see it. But I wanted to reach out because I want to tell you what you did for me. Like you were willing to go into my sister's car, which was not safe, and get her things because you could see in my face that I really needed her belongings. And I said, "And what came from that is this kindness challenge." And I shared with her one of the news stories. And I said, "It's because of you. Like, I've told that story so many times of that officer doing that for me. And I've thought about her so many times over the years." And I said, "I just wanted to thank you. I wanted you to see the impact you had." And so she actually immediately responded and she said that she was reading my message and crying because she always wanted to make sure, she always hoped she made an impact as a police officer. And that the timing was so perfect because she was that week retiring from the police force after 35 years,
I have chills from head to
right?
toe. Oh,
Wait, wait. Then I'm like, I oh my God. I was like, "What?" She's like, I'm in a couple of days I'm retiring." She's like, "So this message comes at this perfect time." And she's like, "And I remember your sister's accident. It's one of those cases that has stuck with me." She's like, "For some reason, there's just some things that for some reason stick with you, and your sister's accident was one of them, which is why I reached out to your mom." She's like, "So I still would love to talk to her." And, and I said, "Yeah, we should get lunch. Like, this is amazing." Then I'm talking to her, and so I'm just having conversation back and forth with her. And I find out that she had recently moved because she knew she was going to retire. And she was going to leave the police force and she wanted to move near her grandchildren. And so she's like, "It's funny," because I sent her one of the articles and it said, the school that I work at. She's like, "That's so weird because I just moved in the town where your school is because my grandchildren are going to go to that school and I moved in that school district." And I said, "Wait, what?" Because we don't, where my sister passed away, where she's a police officer, is probably 50 minutes away from where I work. So it's not,
five zero
we're,
50?
yeah, 45, 50 minutes, and we're not nearby. It's not like it's the next town over. So,
Right.
I mean, we're in the Philadelphia area. My sister died in Philadelphia. She was a Philadelphia police officer, this woman, but we're in the suburbs. We're like
Yeah.
far out, like 45 minutes, 50 minutes away. So I said, "Wait, I'm sorry, you moved to the town where I teach?" Like that, of all the towns,
Right.
that's where your grandchildren. So then I said, "How old are your grandchildren?" And we figured out that, I mean, our grandchildren are young, but I figured out that by the time they're actually at my school and I could have them potentially, it will probably be one of my final years teaching. So I said, "So wait, your grandchildren, I could potentially have them one day and they could be participating in maybe my final kindness challenge, like the year I retire. Like, what are the chances?"
This
I was like,
is
so
unreal.
I was like, "Okay, Kate. Okay, Kate, you're obviously behind all of this." I'm like, "Of course, like for my mom to miss the message, for me to be texting this woman the week that she's retiring, I don't know." It's just, so to me, I was like, there's been so many moments like that where I'm like, "Wait, what?" I'm like connecting dots. I'm like, there's okay. She's pulling strings up there. Yeah.
Like, I just now closed my mouth because it has been gaped open through the whole story because one thing's even more
Yeah.
unbelievable than the first.
Yeah. It's craziness. I don't know.
She is working overtime up there. Like, what
Yep.
a guardian angel you have.
Yes, for sure.
And
Definitely.
oh, the fact that she was trying to figure out what she wanted to do, but she was so determined to make it something that was going to make a difference in people's lives. And here you are carrying that on. I can't stop thinking about the fact that you had that and you treasured those tips, and instead of donating it to an organization that she would have probably
Mhm.
loved and something that reminded you of her, it was like you just knew, no, there's something else. There's
Yep.
something else, and at the right time, I'm gonna figure it out. And then that light bulb and the way that it has just continued, it's exactly what she hoped she'd do with her life, and you're
Yeah.
doing it. It is amazing.
Yeah. It's funny, I had a conversation with my mom recently because before Kate had died, she was talking to my mom about how, I, or maybe it was, might have been a few years before she passed away, but she'd said, had conversation where she said, like, there's like, there's so many big things I want to do. And in order to make change in the world, like she really thought there were she had to do something big. And my mom told her, "Kate, it's not the big things, it's the small things. It's the little things we do that make the world better. And you don't get so hung up on like you have to change the world in this massive, huge way. Like doing the little things adds up." So my mom was telling me about that conversation recently, and I was like, huh, like that's what I feel like that's what her legacy is. Like that's, we're doing these small, I mean, they're just small little acts of kindness, but the impact they have on people. My One of my students the other day, it was another group of students. They decided to take buy some flowers, and they wrote little notes that said things like, if you're having a bad day, like just remember this day will pass. Tomorrow's there, no, tomorrow's brighter, or something like that. Like nice little positive affirmation type things. And so it was on Mother's Day, is
Oh.
when they did it. So they got roses and they tied these little notes to it. And then they went to a Walmart and in the parking lot and they put them on people's cars.
Oh.
And someone shared on social media. They actually sent me a picture of it because they also wrote on there like, we're doing this for the $20 kindness challenge. And so on Instagram, someone took a picture of it on their car and they had posted about it saying how they had had a really terrible day and it's just a really rough day, and then they came out to their car, and here's this rose with this beautiful note, and it just really changed their day. And so I shared that with my students. I said, "Did you see that they posted that?" And they're like, "Yeah, we didn't know that. We just thought we were being nice." I said, "Yeah, but like, you don't know what people are going through, and then they come out, and there's this beautiful rose sitting and this beautiful handwritten note, from some teenagers, and like you were thinking about them even though you don't know who they are." I
Right.
said, it's really amazing. And like, you don't realize, and think of that was just one person. I said, how many flowers did you say? They're like, oh, we bought a lot of flowers. I said, well, think about this was just one person. How many people out there maybe came to their car and they just weren't having a good day, and like you just cheered them up, and you maybe then set them on the rest of their day. They maybe felt better, and then they were kinder to people because they were in a better mood. And
Yeah.
they're like, oh, I didn't think about that. I said, yeah.
It's a chain reaction,
Hmm.
especially, and I love what you said about, you have no idea what people are carrying,
Yep.
what they're going through. A little note that just says, "Don't give up." If somebody's having the worst day of their life and they
Yep.
get that note, that could change everything. You
Yep.
just never know. So, oh my gosh, I love that somebody then took the time to post so they could really see you
Yes.
did make this difference. It didn't just go to somebody that you'll never hear from again.
Yep.
There's somebody that was having such an awful time and you changed their day.
Yep. I've had a bunch of cases like that where students have realized like they chose an act of kindness. They thought, this will be really nice, but they didn't realize there might be a bigger story behind it. So I had a group of students last semester. There's three students that got together and they're called walker caddies. So they are like these little pouches that they sew. They were beautiful. They picked out all these beautiful fabrics and they sewed them, and then they went to a nursing home and they go on a walker. So like if you have trouble walking, and then you can put, your cell phone in it or a book or, there's little
What a
pockets and stuff.
good
I know,
idea.
I know. I was like, this is amazing. I never even heard of these things. And like, how did you even like, so one of the girls, like, I guess her mom works for like a facility, and anyway, they came with the idea. And then two of the girls didn't even know how to sew. So they were like, we had to learn how to sew, Mrs. Ulmer. I'm like, you learned how to sew. Okay. So they go to the nursing home, and it's mostly people who are elderly. And it was
Mhm.
right around Christmas time. And they had made however many they'd made with it was three of them, so they had $60 together. Anyway, they let the people pick out the fabrics and they tied it on for them. They showed them how to use it. And as they were leaving, one of the residents, her daughter was there visiting her mother, and she stopped them and she said, I just need to tell you that many of these residents don't have visitors. I visit my mom here because she's here, but I come here often, and a lot of these residents, they're elderly. Obviously they're here for a reason. They need medical care, but they don't get a lot of visitors, and it's the holidays. It's really hard, and the fact that you young people came and took time to sit and talk to, because they told me like, oh, Mrs. Ulmer, they were telling us stories about their lives, and it was great, like hearing the things they did. And I said, the fact that you took time to sit and talk to them, like, you don't realize, like, what that d and they were like, "Well, yeah, we didn't even think about how there'd be people who are living there who don't get visitors, like, we thought their family would visit them." I said, "Well, some people don't have family,
Yeah.
right? Or they don't have family nearby, or they're estranged from their family." I said, "And you were someone that came and visited them." So it's nice, they, like the kids, like, they learn about things that maybe people are going through. And another group last semester, it was 4 students, and one of the students, her cousin works for a nursing kind of company that does in-home care.
Oh, yeah.
And so they asked the cousin if she could find out how many children have as patients, and I think it was maybe like a dozen kids that they visit with a variety of medical disabilities and stuff like that. And so they got the names of the kids and their interests, and then they went out and made little gift bags of like toys and activities, and they decorated the bags with their names and their, like one of the boys like basketball, and they got little basketball stickers and stuff.
Oh,
And so they dropped it off to the place, and the nurses visited these children's homes and gave them the gifts. And they found out later that one of the children, their family was really struggling financially because they have a lot of medical bills,
mm,
and there wasn't going to be a lot of Christmas gifts. And so they were told, like, what you gave to that boy was one of the only gifts he was going to get that Christmas. And so my
oh,
students came in, they're like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that. Like I knew they had struggling with medical issues, but I didn't even think they would struggle financially.
yeah.
And she's like, to think that this kid got our gift and it was one of the few gifts he was going to get for Christmas. She's like, I didn't even think of that. I said, well, yeah, you don't look, people who have medical issues, like they have a lot of medical bills and, depending on their health care, like they might be struggling financially like that. Yeah, it makes sense. And they're like, well, we didn't consider that. I didn't think. So they learn about things they don't realize like people are struggling with. And I think it just made them like I don't know, they realized like, oh, we had a much bigger impact than we thought. We just thought it was gonna be a fun thing. These kids would get these, little toys and activities that we bought them. We didn't realize it might be the only thing they were getting. I said, "Yeah, I mean, that you had an impact on that kid."
I keep thinking about how your sister was trying to figure out exactly what she wanted to do from the time she was young. She wanted to help people, and she
Mhm,
was talking about the Peace Corps, and
mhm.
I feel like she's with everybody that's doing this challenge because
Oh,
that's
definitely.
something I could see her,
Yep,
obviously I didn't know her, but I could see her being part of this conversation, like, if she got to be in the Peace Corps and you see
yep,
people from all over the world that don't have what you have and how she just wanna help them in any way she could,
yep,
and these kids are doing it, and
yes,
it's like they're living out her wanting to help as many people as possible.
yes,
It's
yes.
incredible.
Yeah, and also, like, I feel like she's showing these kids, "Hey, there are people out there struggling in ways you didn't even know," right?
Yeah.
Like, because I do have a lot of kids who will support our local food pantry and that kind of stuff, which is lovely and great, and, it's really important to do that. But then you have kids who are like, "Hey, Mrs. Ulmer, I found this organization that I found out that $20 can buy 10 mosquito nets, and did you know that there are countries where mosquitoes can literally kill you? Like, they carry diseases that if they bite a kid, like, they're dead, they will die, and that those mosquito nets will save them." And I was like, "Yeah, that's true." And, like, they're like, "I didn't know that, but my $20, it's gonna buy 10, it'll save 10 kids." I'm like, "That's amazing." And but they do, like, research and they
I
find
was just
out.
gonna say, they're going online to find out what can $20 do.
Right, right. Or, "Did you know $20, it could provide someone clean water for a year?" I'm like, "Yeah, there's organizations that will do that." And like, "How is that possible? Like, we have clean water, why don't they?" I'm like, "I know, there's places where clean water it's not accessible," right? So they're like, "But, my $20 will give them clean water for a year?" I'm like, "Yep." Like, that's crazy. They just it blows their minds. One of the most to me was, like, it really affected me. There were 2 stories. I had a student who first she decided she wanted to donate to a women's shelter. And she was talking to me about like, well, what should I get? And I was like, well, sometimes on the website they'll give a list of things that they need, or you can call and you can ask. She really wanted to make sure she got them things that they needed. And in her 14-year-old brain, she was like, women in a shelter, they probably aren't going to use their money for makeup. I should get them makeup. And I was like, well, I don't. Why don't we call the shelter and we find out? So she did. She called the shelter said, actually, what we really need are pads and tampons
Mhm.
because people don't donate those things. They don't think to donate those things. And she said, she came back into school the next day and she was like, Mrs. Ulmer, women don't have access to something so basic as like
Mm.
a tampon. I said, yeah, there's a lot of women who struggle for something basic like that. And it made her really upset. She was like, I don't understand that something so basic. Shouldn't everyone have access to that? I said, yes, they should. They should have access to that. And so she bought $20 worth of pads and tampons. And but her mind was like, her 14-year-old brain could not understand. It felt like my sister, felt like
Yeah.
talking to my sister where she was like, I don't understand. Like, how can we have so much food and then there's people starving? It makes no sense. We throw away our food and people are starving. I don't understand. Like my sister would say that kind of stuff as a kid, and here are my students like, I don't understand. shouldn't that be free? She's like, I know it's kind of a weird thing. I'm like, it's not a weird thing to buy at
No.
all.
It's gotta stop you in your tracks when you hear these kids
Yes.
saying these kinds of things, like, flashing you back to your sister said something almost
Yep.
identical.
Yeah, it was weird. It was like that was a moment. I was like, "Yep, that's Kate. That's what she's whispering in her ear." And then another student a couple of years ago in one of the our local towns, there was someone who was homeless, and she had set up a tent, and there was a news article about was the township going to like try to because she was taking up a sidewalk, were they going to try to move her? Like there was this discussion on what to do with her, and one of my students, he told me he read the article and it really upset him because he said the way that people were speaking about her was as if she was not human, like
Yeah.
as if she was like trash. He's like, Miss Ulmer, they talked about her like she was a piece of trash. And like, how are we going to get rid of the trash? And he's like, but she's a human being. And I said, you're right. She's a human being. So he ended up making like a basket of like toiletry items and that kind of stuff. And he gave it to her.
Oh,
He literally went and found her and said, "I'm giving you this stuff that like basic stuff that I know that you probably need." But he told me, he said, "It really upset me that the way that they were speaking about her was as if she like could just be discarded and she's human. She's a human." I said, "You're right. She is a human being." But it just for him, he was just like, shouldn't we be helping people? I don't know. In his brain, he just didn't get it. And I said, yeah. And it's like kind of opened his eyes to the fact that just in our community, there's people struggling because we live in a pretty good, not affluent, but like people have stuff they need here. So for him, I think he just didn't encounter a lot of people who, were financially unstable or didn't have a home. So for him, he just thought, I don't understand. We have lots of places to live around here. Why aren't we trying to find her a place to live? I'm amazed every semester. My students have just submitted all of their things. I'm about to go and watch all those videos, and I know there'll be things that I just probably have never even thought about.
this has gotta be just so rewarding for you, and also just, like you said, mind blowing. And they're coming up with things that aren't just, it's kind enough to go and buy gift cards for
Mm,
a coffee shop for people, but they're thinking so out of the box. And how far can I take this $20 and
mhm.
how many people can I help? And if I find somebody that really needs help, how much can I get
Yep.
for this? It's such a movement. And I'm not surprised that you have all of these different teachers and groups and people reaching out
Mhm.
from all over the world asking how to start this themselves and what they can do, because it's such a genius idea. And I can see where it's okay, well, we'll do this for a semester and see what
Mhm.
these kids come up with. But wow, am I glad that it caught on the way it did, because it is your sister's legacy.
Yeah, yeah, and I think too, it's really I mean, everybody benefits. One of my students in their video last semester said it's a win-win, right? She said, "I felt really good doing the act of kindness. The person who received the act of kindness, they get something out of it." And I think that for teachers who wanna do this too, the access to money is the struggle, right? Like, it's like 20 times however many students you're doing this with. It's a
Mhm.
lot. But I do think that local businesses are a really great resource because it's to me it's a win-win for them, right? Like you get to give back to the community. I know this the teacher in Delaware who did it, the business owner came into the class and he's the one who handed out the money, and I'm sure that felt really good for him to be able to hand those students the $20 and then get to see all the amazing things that they did with the money. Like I just think like it also makes you really connected to your community. I think what I see with my students, they really start paying attention to the people they live around and people in their community that are strangers to them, but I try to tell them like, yes, they're strangers, but we're all connected.
Yes.
So that to me, going back to the how this all started, like we prevent that book, what happens in that we prevent that by being connected to each other and not just connected to like our friends and our family, but everybody. We recognize we're all human beings and we are all connected to each other. That what we do to others, right, we want done to ourselves. So yeah, it really allows them to really I think, look in their community and see which ways they can help people out there they didn't really weren't really noticing before.
And I think that this is something that none of your students are ever going to forget.
Yeah.
Everybody remembers certain things from school, certain teachers, maybe the difference they made, but your students are never going to forget this, because it is a lesson like they've probably never had before.
Mhm.
And it's just so distinctive and something that started so small as a kind idea, now they are going to think about that later and throughout their lives. They're not going to just walk by somebody that's living
Yep.
on the street and not think, how can I do something? All of what you are doing and instilling in them, it wasn't just be kind to people. It
Mhm.
was you gave them something that made them think about other people
Yep.
and figure out a way to do something to make somebody smile. And that is a lesson that's so far beyond just the classroom, it is
Mhm.
life.
I hope so. I do hope so. I've had some former students who have graduated reach out to tell me that it's something that has stuck with them, and here are things that they're doing in their life, currently that have been inspired by this, and they try to do acts of kindness, or they're giving to this organization. So I do hope that it sticks with them. I do think it'll stick with them. It's something simple to me that I always say, like, people have said things about it being inspiring and stuff like that. To me, it's my students are inspiring because I tell them every semester, I'm like, this is you. All I am doing is providing you the $20, that's it. And then it's really on them, and to me, the fact that they inspire each other is just amazing. One of my students a few years ago, she noticed that her, because I tell them, like, "Look around you. What do you notice?" And she noticed that her next door neighbor hadn't put up any Christmas decorations, and I guess usually this was a neighbor who was pretty elaborate with her decorations. And she thought, "Oh, that's weird." And she went to her parents and she asked her mom, like, "Why doesn't Mrs. So and so, like, why didn't she have any decorations up?" And her mom was like, "Oh, yeah, her son passed away recently, and she's been really grief stricken, and yeah, it's been really hard." And
Oh
she
my
thought,
gosh.
"Oh, I don't," and so she took the $20 and she bought $20 worth of Christmas decorations, little Christmas tree, a wreath, some lights, and then she went and decorated the woman's porch. And so when the woman came home, she would have some decorations. So I'm trying to ask them to, like, look outside of your bubble a little bit. So it's cool that they start noticing things that they don't typically maybe would not have noticed before.
Just like going back to that book and how
Yep.
it's put the electronics down and look
Yes.
around and see what needs to be
Yep.
done, what you could do to make things better.
Exactly.
I love everything about this so much. One of the things I found on your website that I went to this morning was this quote that I absolutely love. If you like to help spread kindness and help others, please consider donating to our $20 challenge. Your money will go directly toward making the world a better place, $20 at a time.
Mhm.
And you
Yep.
100% are doing that. That is exactly what's happening, and every story you tell, I wanna hear another, I wanna hear another, I wanna hear
Yeah.
another, because these kids are they're very creative, but they're
Yep.
also, like you said, looking around and seeing what needs to be done, where the need is the most, how they could
Yes.
make the most impact, and every single one is so different.
Oh, yes. Lots of different ideas. Really cool.
Do you remember the
Yep.
first class, some of the ideas that they did and they came up with?
Yes, I had a couple students in that class who, because I had told them about my sister being a waitress, so I had a few students who went to local restaurants and did things like order a glass of water and then they left with the $20 and got out of there. The one that really sticks out to me though, that first semester was is still one of my favorite ones. It was the day before winter break. So she was going to go visit family. She went to the Midwest somewhere, I forget where, but to visit her family there for the holidays. She was telling her uncle, like, "Oh, I have this $20. My teacher gave me the money." She's telling the whole story. And he's like, "Oh, I'll do something with you. Let's do something together." So what they came up with was they bought $20 worth of donuts and they stood on a street corner in the city and they literally just handed out donuts to strangers. And she told me that initially people were like she was like, "Do you want a donut?" And they're like, "No, thanks," because you're a stranger.
Yeah.
So then she's like, then people started taking them. And then she said, then people started running over and they're like, "Are you the donut girl?" And then they were giving her hugs. She said, people were giving me hugs. And then they loved it so much that they turned it into a family tradition. And so they did it so every winter break, they made it a family tradition that they would buy $20 worth of donuts and stand on a street corner and give them out.
One last question. Do you know even an estimate of how many acts of kindness have happened now?
So within just my school, I think we are at 475, I think, after this semester. In terms of other ones out there, I have no idea.
Thank you for making the world a better place. You are so doing it every single day. The website, I want to make sure, and I'm also challenging anybody that is watching or listening, 20 bucks. That's it. You're going to spend $20 on lunch today. I donated 20 bucks this morning before I
You
talked to you.
did. Yes, thank you so much for that. I
Absolutely.
appreciate it.
So the website is
Yep.
$20kindnesschallenge.org.
Yep, correct.
Christina, you are a spectacular human. I'm so thankful for you.
Well, thank you so much for having me on your podcast, Erin. I'm so positive. The
Oh,
stories that you share, I mean, really, like we need more people like you sharing these beautiful stories of people in the world doing things. So I appreciate what you're doing too.
I didn't think I would ever let Christina go, honestly, because after we stopped the interview, I spoke with her for another, I don't know, 20, 30 minutes. And I finally said, oh my gosh, go enjoy your day because your stories are so fascinating and you're such an incredible human that I will keep you here forever. So go enjoy your life. But I can't say enough good things about what she is doing and has already done, and all in the name of her sister. And one of the things that I said to her off the air was how impressed I was with her patience. It's such a great lesson, honestly, if you really sit there and think about it, that 4 years she had her sister's purse and the tip money and just couldn't figure out exactly what to do with it, but knew that there'd be a day when something would hit her and she would figure it out. That's a lot of patience and a lot of time. And one of the things that I mentioned was it had to have been difficult in many ways if there was 1 second of the day that you weren't thinking about her and you walked by where you kept the purse and then there it is again. It's hitting you. But she kept it there and she kept the faith and kept her patience and came up with something that is really changing people's lives. These kids are going to grow up and want to help others because the lesson wasn't just, hey, be kind. And I even said that this would be good for parents too. You know what? Instead of your allowance, here's $20. Go make a difference in somebody's life. Go do something kind for somebody that you don't know, or maybe even somebody you do know, but tell me about what you did with it. Just 1 week, maybe 1 week a year, 2 weeks a year instead of the allowance, even if they get 10 or whatever. This week you're getting 20, but you have to spend it on somebody else. It's such a hands-on lesson. Me, I've always learned best by doing. Somebody can tell me something, I can read about it in a book, but if I'm actually going and physically doing whatever that is, it sticks with me. And I think a lot of people learn the best that way. So just an idea to kind of move it beyond the classroom and how they're doing it is even in parenting. It can be such a great lesson. So, oh, Christina, thank you. Thank you for what you are doing. Once again, that website, I want to make sure you know what it is. It's 20, the number 20, $20kindnesschallenge.org. Thank you for being here with me this week. If you know somebody making the world a better place, please tell me about that person. Erin O'Malley's frequency.com. I'll email you right back. Erin O'Malley's frequency.com. Thank you so much. Chat with you next week.